This is Christy with the partnership, just checking out the sound and the audio. So if you can hear me, can you please type in the question box that you can hear us? Thank you. We'll get started shortly.
They can't, Dan will go and get them.
Hi, you all. Gonna get started in about 3 minutes. Just want to make sure you all can hear us. If you can type in the question box, can you hear us? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Christy with the partnership. I'm here with Dora. Oh yeah, I'm here with Dora, Claudia, Gabby, and Ann, and we're going to do the Case Notes webinar today. So if you're having any trouble or you can't hear us, please type in the question box. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Claudia Catuz. I will be conducting the webinar today with the assistance of my coworkers here. So if you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to just send the questions and we'll try to answer them accordingly.
Yeah, just make sure you type in the question box when you have a question.
So, of course, the session today is case notes. And just before we get started, we're going to go ahead and go through some house rules. The webinar logistics, everyone is in the listen-only mode. Again, type your questions in the question box. We will answer as many questions as we can during the call. All the materials will be posted on the Career Connect Help Desk, which is the Zen desk. And the link is on the website or on the presentation. I'm sure that many of you have it already. And also, we are recording the webinar, and we will provide a link to it that will also be linked on the help desk. So if anybody misses the webinar today, or if you have any new faculty that you would like to share this information with, you will have access to it. So let's get started. And today's objective for the case notes, is to demonstrate how case records are used to provide program accountability, as well as documenting a customer's achievements, to stress the importance of a timely, concise, accurate, and standardized case note, also how to explain the standards of a good case note, identify how to organize a case note, and also identify steps for entering case notes in Career Connect. So what is a case note? And I know that we ask ourselves that question every time that we open and we're sitting down with a participant or a customer all the time. But the importance, or what is a case note, is a case notes are chronological records of interactions, observations, and actions involving a WIOA customer. The case notes tell the story of a customer's experience, and they also provide a record of all the things that happen with the customers during the participation under the WIOA program, including follow-up. So why are the case notes important? The case notes provide a step-by-step outline in the case, and we are experiencing this a lot in our agencies right now. But when a staff member leaves the organization and new staff have to take over, at least your new staff member knows what happened with the participant before you left the organization, or anybody leaves the organization. Other staff may need to access case notes when working with the same customer. As you know, we do a lot of shared placements or shared work together. And so if I'm in one agency and somebody else wants to access that information in a different agency, they could see the story of the customer. It also helps ensure good practice by supporting the delivery of the service to a customer. Your supervisors or your quality assurance coordinators also have access and want to know what is going on with the participant, since they don't work with the participants directly. But your case notes is going to help support what is being done with that customer. And also, we don't think about it, but a customer's records could be subpoenaed by a court system. They are legal notes. So if anything ever happens to a customer that they're going to court, or they want to access some information, the court could actually subpoena your agency or us to see that information. And case notes are also very important for accountability of the customer, for an employer, for the funders, and any partnering organizations.
And I just want to add something real quick. I'm sure Claudia covering this, but just the case note is also where you're taking credit of all the work that you've done for the customer, so don't really sell yourself short. Put down what you've done to help the person. The case notes and the services are where you're documenting all the work that you've been doing with this person.
And she hit it on the dot because it is on here. And it is the importance of the case notes. So this is what I call the circular, importance of a case note, and it shows you everything and the reasons of why the case notes are very important. And we'll start with the red box. It captures all the meetings, all the services that you're providing the customer, and any type of communication that you have with the customer. And then if it also documents progress towards any meetings that you're trying to have with the customer's goals and their objectives that you have done in their IEP or the ISS. And it actually also helps you build the story of what's happening with that customer. As I mentioned, case notes are legal documents. It also improves the accountability for better monitoring and auditing, and it reduces the risk of disallowed costs. And how Christy said, it demonstrates the quality of the work provided by a WIOA staff and its organization, and that's something that we all look at. And finally, sharing of the important data and the action plan is very critical. How can someone come in and look at your notes and know what's going to happen with the customer, or what should we do with the customer next, or has happened? If there is no case notes sustaining strong information in regards to what is the next step, then we're going to have a difficulty understanding, and it could frustrate the customer, right? And it's going to frustrate the staff because we don't know where we're going with it.
Okay, we have a question.
Okay.
It's saying, I found that a case manager from another organization wrote a case note for one of my youth based on their interaction. Is that okay? Is there a way to be notified when that can happen? Does that count as an interaction if it does not reset the case note count? So that causes a problem for me as a case manager because the interaction was not with me and my WIOA customer. So I think what you're trying to find out is if another case manager entered a case note, does that count as your 30-day activity? And we're going to say,
We're going to park it.
We're going to hold on 1 second. Okay, so the consensus here at the partnership is that it does not, you have to have a contact with your customer every 30 days. It is great that you all are networking together and sharing and helping the customers out, but you need to have, your agency is still responsible for contacting your customer every 30 days. Does that answer your question?
Also, I would like to add case note etiquette in regards to when you're networking or when you're sharing a customer. I think it is also the responsibility of whoever is writing that case that case note, and that participant belongs to another agency. Send them an email and let them know that this is happening, that you had that type of interaction. So you guys are sharing, again, the story of the participant, and you are not creating a silo that you are dealing with them in one way and somebody else is dealing with another way. Just send a courtesy email to each other and say, hey, I just added a case note. This, so-and-so just came to the office. Look at the case note that I inputted there for further information. And that's that. It's just a common courtesy of sharing information.
And we also have another question. It says, is there a way for that not to reset the 30-day timer? Unfortunately, no. At this point, there's not. Once you enter the case note, that starts your 30 days. That is something maybe we can look into because we now have Career Connect, and maybe there is something we can work out, but as of right now, the answer is no. There's no other way to reset the 30-day timer. We have another question. It says, is an email considered a valid contact if you don't get a response from the customer? The answer is no, because it has to be a two-way communication. The key is two-way. If once the person responds to your email, maybe it's a few days later, that would be the two-way communication. If they're asking if you send an email and the customer doesn't respond, is that a communication? I said, not until they respond.
That's like leaving a voicemail.
Right, so
Right.
you need to make sure that once the person responds, that would be the contact.
Okay. And then, okay, so what is a good case note? Okay, and this is what we look for as in the program department, in the monitoring and auditing. A good case note conveys the information that is relevant to the interaction or service being provided. A good case note should be recorded in a timely manner. Ideally, here at the partnership, we're saying 24 hours, at least 24 hours. I know that sometimes we're backed up with the work, but we cannot keep allowing, you know, a month, 2 months, 3 months going without a case note. So, you know, try to start having some type of time management where it allows you to actually have a case note for that participant or that customer if you have some type of interaction. The case notes also should be clear and well written, no typos or grammar errors, should be accurate, concise, and complete, and objective and impartial. You know, don't make your own suggestions or put your own opinion into your case notes. It's actual data or information that you are receiving from the participants themselves. Case note documentation should include a service name, and with Career Connect, as you see, you have a box that says subject. We recommend that you use the service name, the actual service name, which the service list is in the Zendesk. You know, use that same service if it is a service that you are creating. If it's a phone call, put that it was an attempt to call, or, you know, or if it was a visit. So try to use the subject as for what is actually happening. Include the who, what, when, where, why, and how. The behaviors reported by the participant, any partner agencies, or training providers. So sometimes a training provider might contact you and give you some feedback on the student. You know, that is what you want to also include. Again, factual observations, and also include what are the next steps. Don't just say what happened that day, but what are we going to do after if there is still services being continued afterwards. Do not include personal opinions, stereotypical comments, or any offensive statements, even if the customer said it. Don't add it if it's offensive. Don't use acronyms, abbreviations, jargon, or slang. And when we mean acronyms, every agency probably has a different acronym for something. If you are going to use an acronym, say what the word is and then put it in parentheses, or initials, or for any abbreviations, I'm sorry. But, you know, try to be, when you do your case notes, don't act like if you're writing for yourself, write it for someone else. What are they going to see and what are they going to understand? And also don't do unqualified statements.
We do have another question. It's saying, is there any way to stop other agencies from posting a case note into someone else's client? No, there is no way to stop entering an agency, another agency. Hold 1 second, please. As Claudia has mentioned earlier, you should send a courtesy email saying that you spoke with the customer, and just you know, you need to keep each other in the loop, because we are a network and we're all working together towards the same goal for that customer. So just make sure you keep each other updated about the customer. We also have another question. It's saying, going off the last question related to an email, if the participant doesn't respond to the email or the phone call attempt, should the attempt still be documented in a case note, even though I understand this can't be counted as a service? Yes, you need to make sure that you are documenting that, because unfortunately this might be your paper trail of no contact for 90 days or more and it resulting in a negative exit. So yes, you need to.
Again, yes, because it tells the story. It's telling the story of what you're trying to do with the customer. If it was an attempted call, if it was an attempted email, again, but don't just say that you attempted. Put a follow-up information. I will attempt again on 3/23, and then again on 3/23, go back in there. If you contacted the customer and it was good, then it's backing up that case note that you did prior. And if you attempted to contact them again on that day, and again, there was no contact, note that you tried to contact them, and again, put another follow-up day and say the third attempt, the second attempt, or the final attempt. There has to be a story. Again, don't write for yourself, write for someone else to understand what is going on with the case. Okay. All right. So here at the partnership, we don't do fake news. We just do the facts. And this is where we're going to talk a little bit more about the 5 W's and the 1 H. So this is what your case note should be including, and it's the who, name of the person involved in the meeting or the phone call, incident, the event, the email, or etc. And that could include being the customer, a family member, external providers or employers, agency staff, which could be your case managers or your career coaches, your job developers, your employment specialists, your intake specialists, or any other authorized personnel that may have witnessed or have knowledge of the case. Refer yourself as a third person in the notes, and try not to use the word I. I do see a lot of case notes where people will call themselves by their position, which is fine. The customer should be as the customer, he, she, and sometimes if there are incidents with other customers, just try to use the initials of the customer. But this is the who, who is it that you're interacting with, and this is why the case note started. The what was the purpose of the meeting or the event or the situation? Keep it relevant to the IEP or the ISS, current goal or the long-range goals. What was discussed in the meeting or the situation? Summarize the main points discussed. Include quotes when relevant to customers' progress. Accurately record what was said. So sometimes the customer might tell you, oh, I was very excited that I got a job. Go ahead and put that. The customer emphasized that they were very excited. It's something that they said to you. Also, what was done or not done. Justify the reasons for the delivery of the service. Find out what happened and what should have happened. So sometimes, again, the example is the email. I sent out an email, but they didn't respond. But this is how I'm going to go ahead and attempt again on so-and-so date, and the way that you're going to contact them.
Okay, we do have another question. Okay. How many attempts and with what frequency would you want when you are trying to get in touch with an unresponsive client?
I would actually ask your director, but I think that 3 attempts is good.
That would be like 3 attempts per month, not
right.
1 attempt through those 3 months. So you need to try to contact them, email, phone, text, at least, different ways of trying to contact them, and I would say at least 3 attempts per each month.
Right. Remember, there's still the post office.
Letter to yes, mail.
So that's the what. The when. When do we do case notes? When should we actually go into the system and write a case note in regards to an interaction? Program eligibility and enrollment. When you create an IEP, ISS, including any of the updates, if you have to update the IEP or the ISS. When you provide any type of supportive services. If you completed an assessment. When an employment specialist or job developer does any type of job search assistance, resume writing, so forth, anything with jobs. If there's an ITA being provided or worked on, if there is an OJT or work experience services being provided, when somebody gets placed, we want to know, give us some information in the case note, just don't enter the placement. When you're going to do an exit, any type of follow-up, or any other customer updates that are very important to the story of the customer. Also, you want to add in the when did the contact meeting event happen or the situation. We see a lot of case notes that they're written 3 weeks after or 4 weeks after, but the interaction actually happened 3 weeks ago. So put the date, the actual date of what happened, so we know that the day that you wrote the note was not the date of interaction. It probably was happening prior to that. So again, use the dates and the times, and also when is follow-up scheduled. Anything that's going to be scheduled for the future, make sure that you add that in the case notes so that person that is reading knows, or your supervisor or monitoring or your regional manager could see that there's still an ongoing plan with the customer. The where, did they go to your office? Did you see them at a job fair? Did you have an outside meeting? I see a lot of youth case managers usually go to a spot or they meet their youth somewhere. So put those locations of where this interaction is happening or will be happening. Include locations, addresses, cities, neighborhood, communities. For employment, sometimes they get hired with big corporations, McDonald's. Well, if you put McDonald's, if you have the location of where they're actually going to be located, add it on the case note. They're going to get hired at the McDonald's on State and Wabash. I don't even know if there's one there, but you get my point. Just add a location so we know, and yourself know, where they actually could be found, instead of us calling corporate McDonald's trying to find an employee for verification in the future. The why did the contact occur? Why is the event significant to the customer's case? And why is the services being provided? Is it being related to the objective and the goal? Is it related to the WIOA policies and the guidelines? So give a reason of why this is happening, why this interaction is happening with the customer. And lastly, the how. How was the contact made? And like Christy says, it could be in person, that they walked into your office. It could be a phone call. It could be an email. Nowadays, they're texting you back, and there's other ways, fax machines or anything else that is being used in the manner to contact the customer. The other thing is, how did you address the situation if there was something that was preventing the customer to call you, or, any barriers that might be happening? How did you address that situation? How did you resolve a problem that they might be having? And how will you monitor the situation? So there's those monitoring is very important. Do your own self-quality assurance. Don't wait for our monitor to give you that quality assurance. How are you going to make sure that whatever you put in the case note or the goal is going to be met by you as their case manager? So those are the 5 W's and the 1 H. Any questions?
Yeah, we have 2 questions. It says, at what point should collateral contacts be called? After the first, second, or third contact attempt when customers does not respond?
Again, I think that that's something that you have to monitor yourself in the manner of, if you're building a relationship with your customer, you're going to start seeing a pattern of how you contact them and you start speaking with them. So if you know that you call them today, it's all depending on what you told them on that voicemail. I'm going to try to call you tomorrow. If you tell them that on their voicemail, then you call them tomorrow. If you told them I'm going to call you in 2-3 days, then you follow that message that you said. But like Christy says, in a 3-month span, you should at least try to call them 3 times. Take out your Outlook when you're making that plan and put it in your Outlook and pre-plan when you will be making those 3 attempts within the month. That way you know that your Outlook is going to give you an alert to tell you how and when you're going to be contacting this individual.
And then it says, our participants come into the office and use our free printing service for classwork, homework, or resume. What service would that fall under, or how would the case note look? You know what, if you're working on the customer's resume, that would be a service. But if they're just printing out the resume and the classwork and stuff, that's really something that they're kind of doing on their own. So you would just kind of case note maybe that the customer came in, they utilized whatever they did, and you helped them. I don't think that would be necessarily a service.
Right. Unless you pull them out, if you saw them in the resource room and then you pull them into your office and then you really actually had a one-on-one with them, then that would be considered a service. But if they just walked in and they said, hey, hi, how are you doing? I'm just here to use the printer or the computer, then you didn't provide a service. So that's really just, if you want to add there, it's just a note, but it's not a service per se, if that makes any sense. All right. So we have a couple examples of some case notes or how they should look like. And again, these are just examples. We're not saying that they have to look exactly like that, but it would be nice. But, you know, we just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of how we think that it should look to make yourself in compliance, you know, when being monitored or audited. So we have a bad example and a good example. And some of these bad examples, we've seen them throughout some case files, you know. So here's, for example, a subject. It's a transportation, and it was a contact type, face-to-face. And the comments that are being put are, customer starts training on Monday. He has no way of getting to his destination. Provided him with a weekly venture pass. Well, that's nice. You got a venture pass. But it really doesn't provide a service from your part, right? Other than just handing them the venture pass. So the good example, you know, of a case note would be more like, again, the transportation / for ITA training, right? Because now you're tying it to the training. The interaction was face-to-face. But the comment should look something like, customer attended scheduled appointment with case manager to discuss plan on how to successfully complete his training. He is scheduled to start, here you go with the time and the date, and the name of the training and where it's located, which is 321 Learn Street, Chicago. The training facility is 7 miles away from his home. He does not own a car and will be using public transportation. Case manager is providing a weekly venture pass to use between the dates. When is that discussion that he was going to use the venture card? And the venture card number is such and such and such. We added that, and sometimes I understand that the case managers might not be the one providing the venture card, but it is helpful for our fiscal that does vouchering, because they could actually link that number to your signing sheet. And it makes, again, quality assurance easier on our part and your part. Customer scheduled to follow up with the case manager or call by December 17th to provide a first week update. If it's needed after update, customer will come to office to obtain another Ventra weekly pass. Customer states he is nervous but excited about training and looking forward to gaining certification. Transportation service has been opened and will remain open until service is no longer needed. So again, I think that we covered the who, what, when, why, where, and the how. It is okay to say that you opened up the service, and it might be a same-day service for some of you, and for some of you, it might be that it might remain open until the training is finished. Again, if you place that note on there, it will help whoever sees the case note know that why it's still open. So it's giving a little bit of information.
Okay. We do have one question. Is contact type necessary? When we write in the case note that the customer came to the office or the contact was made over phone in the actual case note?
Yes, it is necessary, and it's a field that is implemented in Career Connect, so it's there to be used. So it's basically just a drop down and a click, even though your comment says it, but we could pull out a report on just that tag instead of printing out your comment. So if your supervisor ever wanted to pull out a report to say how many phone calls were made, we could actually use that field for face-to-face or calls or emails. So yes, it is necessary.
The next one, we are now leaving the transportation service open. We were told we have to close and open every time we give out transportation. That's the transportation service. Okay, one moment.
Very soon.
Okay, for the person who answered the question about leaving the transportation open, we're going to put that in our parking lot, and we will get back to you with that answer very soon. The next question is the same one. The sample says, oh, to leave the service open, how were we told this? Okay, we're going to put that in the parking lot, and we'll get back to you very soon. Okay, so we're going to get back to you on the transportation, and it's good that you guys are giving us this information so we could all be on the same page. We'll go to the next example. Another case note example is for IEP ISS. You know, a bad example is created IEP, customer needs, is seeking full-time employment as a pharmacy technician, right? A good example of an IEP could actually be just copy and paste the IEP information into a case note, right? And it could look, again, these are just examples. We're not telling you that you have to write this verbatim by verbatim, but customer met eligibility and is registered as a 1A participant. Customer is currently receiving SNAP benefits. Customer has been certified as a pharmacy technician since March 2017 with an outside training provider. Customer has no vehicle and depends on public transportation. She's a single mother of 2. Family assists her with childcare. Customer has expressed concerns about the lack of job opportunities due to no experience. She has been searching since receiving her certification. She is seeking a full-time position as a pharmacy tech within 5-mile radius from her home with wages of $11 or more. She will attend our job club, our job readiness training, and our agency will provide her with resume assistance and job leads for interviews. IEP has been created with these goals and signed by customer. Again, it's just providing the who, what, when, why, where, how. It gives a little bit of juice, right, to sustain why they're actually there as your customer and what are the goals that you're meeting for the IEP. Maybe? And this is the good one. This is one that, you know, we really want to see when it comes down to placements. The bad example, customer called to report that he got employed by XXX, sounded excited and will call me when he receives his first paycheck. That really doesn't tell us a lot. Even though you're entering it into the system as a placement, there still has to be a case note sustaining that. So a good example would be customer call case managers on the date to inform that he has been hired by X company. He received an offer letter via email and has forwarded the letter to save in his file. Per the documentation, the following information has been provided. Put the position, give us the pay, what if there is any benefits, what is the start date, again, what is the location, if there's an HR contact, you know, this is information will back you up
for if you ever need to do verification in the second quarter or the fourth quarter, and for some reason you lose something, you always have a case note that you could actually lean on. And just put a little, message on the bottom of how you're going to follow up. Case manager will contact customer in 2 weeks to follow up with the customer to gain a copy of his first paycheck and update on his progress. Customer has agreed to call or will contact case manager if there's any concerns or situations that occur. Anything that you want to add, Sora? Okay. And just a same-day example, bad one. Kate met with employment specialist to discuss what she was doing to find a job. He provided her with websites and resources to search for employment. That goes back to that question. If you're just providing little links here and there and really not supporting it, then it's not a service. So a good example of what a same-day career planning would look like is customer met with assigned ES to discuss a plan to gain employment as a receptionist. Customer currently has a resume which is not updated. ES, or employment specialist, and customer will update resume on next appointment meeting, and you put the date when that's going to happen. An employment specialist has scheduled customer to attend a 2-day job readiness workshop by such date. Customer has expressed that she has no appropriate clothing for interviews. The employment specialist provided a list of nonprofit organizations that provide interview clothing at no cost. Customer has advised she will attempt to go next week, and the customer and the ES will work together to start scheduling interviews with companies by first week of July. There are no other concerns expressed by customer. Customer will be ready for employment after completing all tasks. Again, the who, what, when, why, and how, it's all going to happen.
Okay, we have a question. The information about the employment is all entered when entering the employment, so is it necessary to put it in the case note too?
Yes.
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 Well, you know what, it's also a way to kind of check and balance. Sometimes people get, maybe they start and stop a job very quickly or whatever. So this is just kind of to make sure that have the same information about the employer, about where the customer's working. And sometimes it's not always entered by the same person. Some smaller agencies, yes, maybe it's one person who does a lot of the same thing. At some larger organizations, it could be different people doing different parts of the case note or entering employment or different things. So it's just a way for check and balance.
And also, I just wanted to add that sometimes the case manager may have left, and you really don't know what's going on with that client. The employment was not entered on the placement bar. So if you need to go back and check to see if that person was actually working, so you can go in and exit that person. So yes, it is very important to enter that information in the case note.
And if you see and we'll show you an example of the options that you have for case notes, and placement is one of them. So again, use those bars or those selections to make those case notes. All right, so how do you create a case note? There's actually 2 ways that you could create a case note, but the one that we have here is, if you're familiar with your Career Connect, in the bar here where it says staff profiles, in the section staff profiles, if you click on the little cross, it'll expand it. And then it's going to expand to general profile. And under general profile, you will see your case notes. When you click on case notes, you will see this section here at the bottom where it says case notes, the tab. And there's 2 ways. You can actually click that little link that says add new case note, or you could click that blue bar bubble on the bottom where it says add a new case note. That's one way. We'll show you the other way in a minute. So this is what happens, and this is the questions as what should be selected or not entered, right? So first you will enter your contact date, and you will enter the date that you actually had the contact that occurred, okay? The next one, the next asterisk is the LWIA region. That's always going to be pre-populated as Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. Your office location, you select the name of your agency. The program is always going to be Title I WIOA. Partner programs, you could leave that blank. That's only for other agencies that we're not doing right now. So leave it at none selected. The subject, here it is. This is where you need to enter the name of the service. Again, I recommend that you use the titles of your service sheets. That way it refers to that service. And then the contact type. Even though there is no asterisk, it's still important for you to actually put what type of contact, face-to-face, telephone, email, so and so. And then you enter your data of case notes description. As you see, there is really no max. I mean, don't go in there writing a whole story, you know, but you can if you wanted to. But, you know, keep it to 2-3 paragraphs, you know. And then there's spell check. So as we clarified, try to make sure that everything is error-free. So you have the ability to do spell check, you know, and it's just professionalism, you know, that whenever someone sees your notes, they're actually professionally done, and that includes spell check. And on the bottom of that, you will see the circle that says save, and that's all you actually have to do, just save it. A lot of people ask, do you have to create the message, click on create message from case note onto save? You can.
We don't have
but it's not.
That's not activated right now, so it doesn't matter if you click it or not click it, it's not working. So
Right.
Don't click it.
So she said no. So there you go, and then that's how your case note is done. How do you view your case notes, right? And this is what we do on our side, and this is what monitoring does, and this is what your supervisor is gonna do. We are going to be viewing your case notes to make sure that we are in compliance to our goals and so forth. So where are my case notes? You know that you entered a case note, but you don't see it in the case note screen, and it's sometimes because it's suppressed, right? So odds are you suppress a case note. In order to see your suppressed case note, we're going to show you how to filter it and unfilter it. And any staff member with access to Career Connect that can see case notes will be able to see suppressed case notes for any customer. So the partnership recommends not to suppress any case notes.
And just to point out, this was different in IWDS. For those of you who had IWIS, you could make a case note confidential and no one could see it but you. But that's not the case with Career Connect, since we're one LWIA. That's how it works. Any LWIA staff can see it. So it really doesn't make sense to suppress because we can all see it anyway. So if you do have something confidential, you might want to talk to your supervisor or regional manager on how to document that. Should it be in the case notes, or how do you want to do that? But there is no confidential case notes any longer with Career Connect. And we do have a question. Says, I was told not to view or edit employment under activities, but go to background under individual profiles, general profile background. However, when you enter employment under programs, it does not transfer to the background. I'm assuming you're talking about entering a job, and that's what we have recommended to agents. Well, what we've told agencies is if you get a job during programs, you need to enter it on the add employment bar. And once you do that, there is a question at the very end. It says, do you want to add to employment history? You should say yes, and then it will go to the background. If you say no, it's not going to go to the background. And just an FYI, in case some of you all may have forgotten, when we did our initial transfer from Career Connect to IWIS, all the jobs from IWIS were transferred to the background section of Career Connect, because we just recently added that employment bar. So some things are going to be in the background and some things are not. Well, all the jobs should be in the background. If your customer got employed during the program, you need to add it to that add employment bar. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, type again and we'll answer back.
And also, all this information is actually in Zendesk as well. So maybe, you know, visiting Zendesk and entering employment in the search, you will get all the information on how it should actually look from your standpoint of entering employment before or during
Yes,
your participant in the
called
program.
the in-program employment tracking procedure, and it's on the help desk. So that's what you need to refer to.
So here's how you view a suppressed case note. Okay, again, under your case note, under staff profiles, general profile, if you click on your case note, you're going to see the case notes that have been done in the system. If you click on this show filter criteria, it's going to expand. And one other thing that I would like to add is here, if you see summary and detail, we are going to also show you what's the difference between those two if you haven't done so. But once you hit that filter, it's going to show you this screen, and you want to click on all case notes. Once you do that, then you're going to click on filter on the bottom, and it's going to show you all the case notes for that customer. So if you saw at the beginning, there was only 2 because one was being suppressed. Now, after you filtered it, you actually had 3 in there. So always go in there and make sure that, you know, there are no suppressed case notes that you might have for that candidate. To unsuppress a case note, you would go into the edit the note and uncheck please suppress this case note box. So if you see in your case note summary, here where it's highlighted, please check to suppress the case note, you just uncheck it off and it won't suppress that case note. And here's where I was mentioning about how it looks detailed versus summary. If you click on detail, this on your left side, you see how it's all in detail, and this is how you're going to see it, all your case notes. But if you just do the summary, then you're going just to see the basic information, and you're going to have to expand and click on edit in order to actually see all your notes for the case notes. The other thing is you can actually print out your case notes. So if you see these little boxes on the side, I'm going to show you actually how that looks. One second. Oh, so let me go, before I go into that, sorry, I apologize. The second way that we were talking about how to actually enter a case note, when you're doing a service, when you're creating a service, you're actually seeing this screen first. And sorry, our system is a little bit slow here. So this is the page where you're actually starting your service. And there is a add case note here. But if you add it here, it's not going to transfer. So what you have to do is finish all your documentation of your service. And once you get to closure information, there is that same link here that says add a new case note. You could click on there and it's going to take you to the case note field to start doing all your case notes. Now that is the best way to practice on how to do a case note right away when you create a service. If you actually work that way, you're never going to have to second guess if you did a case note or not. If you finish creating a service at that moment in time, and at the end when you're doing your closure information, which is this page, add your case note right there and then if you have all the completed information. That way you won't forget if you did it or not. But then there's that option that you have, that first way that we showed you.
Well, the partnership is requesting that you do fill this out when you're creating the same-day service. Just as in I would, it would prompt you to enter the case note right away. Unfortunately, Career Connect doesn't do that, but we are asking that this is where you enter your same-day service case note. So all the services that you enter should have a case note on the screen, which is the final screen of while you're entering a service.
So now we're going back to how you print it, how you do a printing of a case note. Again, this is an example. Here are your little boxes. If you click on this box or any of the boxes, either 2, 3, or all of them, if you select all of them, you just click on that top one. So unselected, you click that one. But if, let's just say you want to just print these 2 out, all you do is you click on them, you go all the way to the bottom and click on Print Selected Case Notes. You answer the questions. Do you want it with a signature line or not? A signature is not needed for case notes, you know. So then you just do the print preview. And this is how it looks when you print it out. And you could just print it for your own, again, follow-up or, you know, but it's not needed in the file. You're not needed in the file, but whatever reason you guys are reviewing, doing quality assurance, this is a way that you could actually print out your case notes. Okay, we have a question.
We have a question. It's saying, which party handles the shared placement note/activity? The party who should handle the shared placement is the party who got the placement. So if you place another agency's customer, hopefully you all have been working together and both parties are aware of this, so it won't come as a shock to the person who got, the agency that got their person placed. But you should definitely, again, as we mentioned throughout, you need to send an email to make sure everyone's on the same page. But the person who is placing the customer needs to write the case note and add the service.
Correct. All right. And finally, the important memo from us to you is if it's not in Career Connect, it never happens. So you could, when we're doing monitoring and when you're sitting down with your regional manager or your program coordinator or your supervisor, and you're like, well, yeah, he came to the office on such date. If it's not in Career Connect, it didn't happen. You guys could tell the story the way you want it, but we want to see the story in Career Connect so it could actually support the story that you're providing to whoever it is that they're requesting information on the customer. So that's basically it for case notes. Basic foundation. Again, we're just trying to support everyone and making sure that you're in compliance with your customers' information. You know, again, best practices for your monitoring and your auditing, best practices so when your regional manager visits you, you know, there is actually better positive exits, right? Because we want to avoid negative exits. And that way you don't have to go back and try to think about what happened with that customer. Try to do it, again, 24 hours after speaking to your customer. So any questions, any final questions?
We do have a question. Says, are we ever going to get access to the case note template? That's actually a Dina question, and she's not here today, but from my memory, I think we're not going to do the case note template. It's something we have to turn on and off, and from what I recall, it's not going to be available. Now, if you all see, can make a case as to why, I think that you can present it to your supervisor or your regional manager, but at this time, I don't think we're going to be using it.
Any final questions, concerns? Was this helpful? Well, hopefully it was helpful. Again, this information will be on your Zendesk.
We have another question. Will there be a business services case note training? We don't have anything scheduled as of now. If you maybe that's something you can bring up at the VST meeting. If you feel it's necessary to have a different type of training. However, I kind of feel like the case notes can apply to both sides.
Right. The case notes are universal. It really doesn't depend on business side or program. The business side would just be job readiness, resume writing, employment, placement. So they all fall in the same category of how your case notes should look like, whether it's one agency or the other. If one agency is doing the program and the other one's doing the placement, the case notes that we just spoke about today are universal across the board. It really doesn't affect differently. Any other questions? You're welcome.
Thank you. It says thank you.
So with that being said, we appreciate your time. Again, this is going to be in the Zendesk. Feel free to send us any messages afterwards. You know, say how awesome we were. That's great. No. But again, thank you, and hopefully, you know, we will start seeing some, you know, good, nice case notes, and everybody will be happy.
Just one more thing. We do not have any other webinars scheduled as of now, but if there are any topics that you're interested in, please contact the help desk or your regional manager or project coordinator, and we'll take a look at that. One thing that we will be sending out is a waiting list for anyone that's interested in the hands-on income calculation training. But other than that, nothing is scheduled. So again, contact us if there's other topics.
With that said, thank you guys. Have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.